Hello, my name is Margaret Adele, and welcome to my 100th indie book review. I have officially done 100 of these things after I finish this one. And I am super excited with the review for today because it is unlike anyone that I've reviewed before this. So today I am reviewing Flowers Shirking from the Light of the Sun by Li Xing. This looks like a poetry collection, but it's actually a slash fic of two ancient Chinese queer women. And I'm in love with it. So this is definitely a little bit strange in that this book is very blatantly trying to be essentially fan fiction, like published without, all of the changes and alterations that a lot of people make when they try to publish their fan fiction. And a quick note with this, because it might come up. Yes, I have disparaged other books for being like fan fiction before, and I'm going to talk about how much I love how this one is like fan fiction. But I try to judge a book based on its intention. And if you're trying to write a standard traditional story and it comes across looking like self-insert fan fiction, yeah, that's kind of a problem. But if you're purposefully going for that fan fiction kind of style and you achieve it, that's something different entirely. And the author is very blatantly trying to go for that fan fiction style. The synopsis of this book reads, "A cultivator insists on repaying her life debt to a demoness. No one is happy about this development." And if you look on the Goodreads page, it's literally like an AO3 style series of tags underneath that. We're going for fan fiction here. And it is to the book's credit because the style in the writing is so delightfully informal. A lot of ellipses, a lot of exclamation points after single words to demonstrate, how anxiety-ridden one of our characters are. So the cultivator that the synopsis refers to in this world is kind of like a mix of magician and warrior. Like a lot of work with like chi and stuff like that, and to be like stronger, faster, etc. than your average person. And a demoness in this world isn't like some being you summon, right? They're kind of just characters that they're there. They're just people. They're, might have red skin and horns, but they're just your average citizen. So our cultivator in question, Li Xing, who I will be referring to as LJH, is this tall, stoic woman, and our demoness is an herbalist who is a chaotic dumbass named Xiao Jie, who I will be calling XJ. These two are your classic tall, small ship in fan fiction, and basically XJ saves LJH's life. But our cultivator is like, this is sus, because she knows that her uncle is pretty much trying to do her in so he can take her title and her inheritance. But rather than come out and say that, because XJ did technically save her life, she decides that she's going to play it up as a life debt and follow XJ to repay said life debt. XJ's not happy about this. Doesn't want it. She's like, hey, it's cool, we're square, don't worry about it, but LJH is not having it. So she follows her around on a variety of adventures involving like armored boards and going to the palace and such. And of course, over the story, feelings begin to happen. Now, I first heard about this book from Twitter when I saw the author talking about it, and she talked about the ship as a tall murder face and a small chaotic dumbass, and I was like, yes, I want this. And it is so queer, so much queerness in the best possible way. Aside from our two main protagonists, there is a found family that LJH is a part of that are all cultivators, and there's just other like sapphic relationships, MLM relationships, multiple different trans characters. Off the top of my head, I can't remember if there were non-binary characters. I don't think I remember seeing any they, them pronouns, but I can't be sure, so don't take my word for it. But there was just so many queer characters, so many of them being like lovable idiots, which was a really big theme over the course of this story. And I thought they were so adorable in their adventures / misadventures. XJ actually starts like purposely trying to put herself in danger, not like real danger, but enough so that she can kind of spin it to be like, oh, look, you saved my life. Now our debt is equal. You can go back now. And every single time LJH is like, no, doesn't count. That you wouldn't have died from that. And after a while, the you wouldn't have died from that becomes more and more just an excuse because she doesn't want to leave because feelings. And it's fantastic. So, of course, we also need to discuss the ancient Chinese cultural aspects to this. And admittedly, the Chinese history class I took as part of my degree was for modern history. So I'm not as well versed in the ancient stuff. But the nice part about this is, there is a delightful little glossary in the back, and I did make use of this, especially with the honorifics. I really struggle, and I think a lot of English-speaking people do, with honorifics, because English has next to none. It's like Mr. or Mrs., and that's like it, or ma'am or sir. And in a lot of Asian cultures like China or Japan, the system of honorifics is much more complex, and they talk about it a little bit in the book, where characters will be like, oh, why are you calling me X when you should be calling me this? And so I had to like look in the back to be like, oh, okay, yeah, it was disrespectful for them to call them that, because age, and I'm making it sound way more complex than it is. You'll need to make use of the glossary if you're from an English-speaking background, but it's not that difficult. And a big part of that reason is because if you've spent any time in online fan cultures, you'll recognize the tropes immediately. Again, this reads like fan fiction, so yeah, you might occasionally have to pause to be like, okay, what does it mean that XJ just called LJH that? Oh, it means Great Warrior. Okay, and then you go back to the story. Like, that's really all you have to do to learn that kind of thing. I did actually Google what a courtesy name was, because that one was one I didn't know about, but now I know a little bit extra about ancient Chinese history. And in general, the story is so recognizable for its tropes and general feel that the ancient Chinese culture is definitely a part of it. You know, they're fighting mythical beings or dealing with, ancient Chinese palace drama. It's definitely part of it, but it's a lot easier for you to learn and pick up, because the rest of the story, the romance and all of that, is one that you'll know instinctively. So you don't have to really work. It's just there, and it's delightful. And admittedly, I did have to work on name pronunciation. The author was kind enough to send me pronunciation not only of her name, but also names of the characters. And so literally I sat with the book open to this part right here, because we have all of the characters, the main cast, drawn out here. So I literally sat with this open, listening to the little audio clip of her saying the characters' names and just going one by one. And I'm not going to say all of those aloud for you, because even after listening to it 20 times, I still had to double check right before I started this review to make sure I at least had the main characters' names right. But I would listen to that, and then I would say those names again in my head as I saw the names pop up, so that the names started gelling more in my brain. Even though, the fact that they're even in not an English type alphabet. What do we call our alphabet? The Roman-esque alphabet definitely means that these aren't even the real ways you're supposed to write those names, because it's not in actual Chinese characters. But again, it's fairly easy to catch on to all the cultural aspects, and which makes it really fun to get into that kind of culture. And now I'm I want to go read other stuff from this era and time. And fortunately, this book was actually directly inspired based on another book. So now I might have to go check that one out. Apparently it's a lot like this book with everything but the gay romance, which I do love a gay romance, but this one has sated my desire for sapphic women, for now. But in general, you can actually download this book for free. The author is giving it away on Itch.io, and I will have a link down in the description below. She does ask that if you check it out on there, that you leave a rating, and I gave this rating on Amazon and Goodreads type places 5 stars. Very much enjoyed it. It's both a mix of a culture that you can learn about, but also really familiar tropes that you already love. And I wasn't expecting to love it quite this much, but it was just so much fun, and I'm so glad I read it, and I think you should too. So that was my 100th indie book review, and I actually have a really fun thing planned. So if you have not seen the tweet, I am actually going to let the indie authors whose work I reviewed quiz me on their books. It's going to go horribly. I'm not going to remember anything, but it should be fun to watch me fail. So if you are an indie author whose work I have reviewed, feel free to email me with some questions about your book, And Li Xing, if you would like to, you are free to as well. I have officially reviewed your book, so be on the lookout for that. And hopefully I will not fall as far behind on my reviews. I am so close to being open to review requests again. I have managed to hold back my desire to ask for more review copies, but of course now I'm also getting requests for like the seconds of books that I've already started reading and like series type stuff, but I don't think I'll ever get my review book count as low as I want it to go, but that's fine. I'm in love with this. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you stick around for the next 100 indie book reviews. And with nothing else to say, I hope you have a wonderful day and a marvelous tomorrow.